Hello. Hi guys. So I'm just gonna wait for a few of you guys to join in. Yes. Hi. Just waiting for a few more of you guys to join in today. Then we can start. Alright, so I see more people joining in. Let's just give you guys a minute or so. Can y'all let me know if y'all can hear me clearly? Thanks, Yen. It's actually the filter. I use a filter to make my my cheeks rosy. Okay, so we see we've got more viewers joining in. Perfect. Okay, so like any other show, I would like to start off by introducing myself for people who do not know me yet. I'm Rachel. You all know I've been doing this LesTalk sessions with different queer guests talking about different educational topic. It may be educational, it may be just people coming in sharing their stories. But I do this as much as I can for you guys. As I always start off, sitting beside my friend, my very good friend, my best friend, a glass of red wine today. So it's not white, it's red today. This is Sendero Cabernet Sauvignon. It's a wine of Chile, and it is sponsored by Farah. Thank you, Farah. This time round. So let me just jump right straight in. This topic today, it's something that we have been getting a lot of questions and requests for doing this particular topic, and this topic is called workplace inclusion and diversity and equality, but I kind of just put it as inclusion because that's how it's well known right now. What I aim to do from this session is that for us to all share our stories, all of us get together, see where this is going to take us. I've been 3 minutes in. I'm sure that more of y'all will be joining in shortly. So this quick, and let me just speak a little bit more about the guest that's going to be joining us today. Her name is Robin. She is a founder of Hinge. It's a creative I think it's a creative agency. Robin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that they produce content for F&B and the lifestyle industry as well. So what make this session so close to the heart is that I think once in our lifetime we all will have gotten this, would have gone through this, would have doubted ourselves, would have doubted our decision when it comes to either coming out at a workplace or dealing with sexism, dealing with how, okay, maybe it's a sexist remark, or because we're not getting promoted because we're gay, or in a feminine side, because we are women, we do the light end job, we can't do something that is more managerial, for example. Not only that, maybe it's also of color, of race, that if let's say you are of a particular color, they don't let you do such things. And I know it may come as a shock, but it's still happening in Singapore. In Asia, I'm not very sure. Hi Excel, thanks for joining. Okay, so right now I'm gonna get Robin to request to join my video, our live session, so she'll be able to come in and start this session off. So let me see, Robin. Actually, Robin, I request so you can kind of join in. Hi, Excel. Long time no see, darling.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Hi everybody.
Hi.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, can. Loud and clear.
Okay, great.
Perfect. I think we're going to wait for your friends to join in as well.
Sure.
So
Hi Lydia.
I think everyone's going to be very shocked, right, that you're actually live right now on IG.
Hey Charlie. Hi. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Charlie's my brother.
Oh, hi, Charlie. I think he was your number one supporter. He was the first to join in the
Yeah, I
session.
saw. Thanks, Charlie. I should buy you a beer.
Yes, okay, so what beer are you drinking?
um, so the funny thing is, I sold craft beers for 2 years straight, but right now I'm drinking Anchor.
Oh, Anchor.
Yeah, I think that there's a time and place for craft beers, and they are awesome products. But sometimes you just want a simple beer. You just want something you can kick back and knock up.
Mhm.
So
That's,
Anchor is my choice.
yeah, it's a strong choice.
Thanks. I need a filter like yours. Where's my rosy cheeks?
No, I think you can click like the this icon button, so you can do whatever you want. You can have your dog ears, cat ears.
Wow. Oh, that's pretty cool. Can I do like?
Right, it's
I
very
think I'm
fun,
okay
man.
with the original. Let's do it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I haven't tried IG Live, to be honest, so this is pretty new to me too. Yeah, Lydia is the friend that always sends me the weirdest filters to use. I will not use them because her filters are so strange.
And it's we're in a social media place where we get to modify our face, our body,
I know. I
everything
know, I know.
else.
And it's one of the most fun things, right, about social media. You can be whoever you
Yeah,
want to be.
that's like a selling point. Okay, Robin.
Yeah,
So
let's go.
thank you for joining. Thank you for accepting the invitation.
No problem. Thank you for your
Maybe
time.
no worries. Maybe you'd like to just tell us a little bit about yourself, your story.
Sure. I think all my life I've been jumping around from industry to industry, but in the last couple of years I've been more focused in the F&B industry. So I just left my previous business, but I was selling craft beers with two of my friends. We're running that for about 2 years, through the whole COVID time, especially when it first started. So that was pretty fun. I've learned a lot from just those 2 short years, more than I think more than any time in my career. And I really attribute that like that experience to who I am today. Um, and I think most of the things that I'll be sharing with you and everybody about is probably going to be from those 2 years, or probably some references from when I was still an employee for some other companies as well.
Of
Yeah.
course. Tell me a little bit more about your own personal life. You're queer. How do you identify yourself?
So I identify as being a lesbian, she, her pronouns. Actually, this whole pronoun thing is still pretty new to me.
It's
To
new
be
to me
completely
too.
honest, you're right, yeah. So to be honest, I don't have many queer friends in my life. I actually have a lot of straight friends. So a lot of my, um, and I've been very blessed to have friends who are very, very accepting, who have always accepted me with an open heart and open mind, and haven't been afraid to ask me questions that they need answers to, like pronouns, for example. Do I call you him or her? Are you should I call you a bro or sis? So questions like that, I think, are great. And as friends, we shouldn't be afraid to ask each other those questions. I think, yeah.
Right. So, do you have an experience? You mentioned about you're gathering your experience from the past companies that you were with. Is there a
Hmm.
particular experience that comes into your mind when we're talking about workplace inclusion?
Um, To be completely honest, I think straight up, I haven't really faced any straight up discrimination, or any, verbal abuse or physical abuse. So I have been very fortunate that way. I think, to be completely frank, I think the biggest thing for me in terms of workplace inclusion is probably being left out for, promotions or training opportunities because I'm Asian. I worked
Mm.
with a lot of companies who are, um, predominantly, foreign led, like led by foreigners, and these are great guys. Like, they have good hits, and they're really well established in their own industry. But I think that, still a lot of opportunities are left out,
Mm.
um, for that. Yeah, I think I've been pretty fortunate. Yeah.
Yes, I'll just share a little bit of my experience.
Hmm.
I came across one person who used to work with me, ex-colleague. He is no longer in the company, thankfully. But ever since he found out that he didn't find out when I shared with him that I was gay. He started treating me differently. He started coming to me and talking to me about, literally, he kind of told me, Rachel, you should watch this lesbian porn with a VR goggles on your phone. It's a life changing
We get that
experience.
all the time, isn't it? Yeah.
Um, and to be honest, I sometimes we laugh about it because we don't know how to deal with situations like this. And people think that it's okay. So what then happened is he started asking me about my sex life. He is asking me about how this whole thing works. He's asking me about my
Yeah.
current partner. He asks me about um I don't know, threesomes. And that's when I knew that, it's wrong. And because we network, right? So when we go out,
Yeah.
when I had drinks with him, he bring his contacts, and the first thing he introduces me as, this is my lesbian
Hi,
friend.
this is my lesbian friend.
Yes. And I'm like,
Yeah, I get
bro,
it too.
what?
Yeah.
Bro, what? I mean, um, sure, maybe you may be proud to have a lesbian friend that you are open about it. But the thing is, we know it when you're sexualizing us, right? It's
Yeah,
such
for
it's such
sure. I think, yeah, I get that all the time as well. I think, actually, I would like to pose this question to the audience because I think we have a couple of straight guys here that I know of. Is this typical bro talk? I'm just wondering because sometimes I feel that when guys identify us as being lesbians and being attracted to the same gender that they are attracted to, they'll be like, hey, maybe I can speak to them in the same way that I speak to my other friends who are guys who have the same sort of attraction. I feel like that might be um, what goes through their mind when they ask us
yeah,
these questions.
yeah.
And maybe to us, it seems a bit weird. Yeah, I really don't know. Can somebody like out there enlighten us?
Yeah, I mean, I most of my group of friends are males, straight males,
Hmm.
and I'm proud to say that I've educated them to the stage where they know that bro talks do not work with me, right? And not just because I advocate for such a strong um education, because I need people to feel educated, right? I mean, boys, they always have this conversation. Oh my god, that chick's so hot. Look at her ass, and it's friends of friend. I'm like, why are you talking about my friends like that? I mean,
Yeah.
women deserve respect. They're like, it's just bro talk, say no touch.
Yeah.
But after I actually reached out to them, I tell them that, you know what? I mean, we can speak about girls and who we are going out with. And they have this thing, I slept with this person, I slept with that person. I'm like, that is fine, but sexualizing someone, that's wrong,
Yeah. I
right?
think
That's
that's pretty interesting. I mean, look at the comments. Lydia said, no, they only have impressions of lesbians through porn. Bronzy the Bear says they somehow feel like there's suddenly no boundaries. So I think it's pretty interesting that maybe within their own circle, they just don't have these conversations, and it takes like an encounter with a person like us to educate them. Yeah, so I think that whenever I encounter these things, I don't feel so much offended, but rather I tell myself that, hey, this is an opportunity to explain to somebody what it means to be, lesbian or in the LGBT community, what talks are we okay with and what are we not. I think
yeah.
sometimes, I don't know, I still have friends who joke about, oh my God, look at that girl, and stuff like that. But then where does that line lie? I think it's different for everybody. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna jump straight to questions. Thank you everybody for posting questions. There were a lot of questions that came in.
Yeah, I
Probably
saw.
I shared with you the questions that came in before we went
Yeah,
live. For you to just prepare yourself what questions you're gonna have to
I
answer.
hope I'm
Uh,
prepared.
since we are talking about sexism, right? I would like to bring up this question about, because we are women and lesbians, colleagues see
Mhm.
us as sexual objects. I think it's different when our guy friends talk to us that way versus
Mm.
colleagues. Have you ever
Mm.
gotten that, and how do you deal with it?
I think in my position is a little different because I identify more masculine, right?
Mm,
So They treat me more as a bro, and I think the talks that I get are more like, check that girl out. Oh my God, this one's so hot. Oh my God, and things along that line. So those are the ones that I face personally. Sometimes I feel really uncomfortable depending on who I'm talking to, unless I know them really well. Then I can probably tell them where to draw the line, or not engage when it's a bit too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I think in general, like women definitely face a lot of sexism. I have friends who, I mean, have the same experience as you and I. When they tell people that, hey, yeah, I'm seeing a girl now, especially if they're bisexual, actually,
Mm.
then they get all sorts of like sexual questions. I genuinely think that it is out of curiosity. I think that people don't know how to phrase them correctly,
Mm.
and that is one of the things that perhaps we sometimes take offense to. Again,
Yeah.
like for me, it's all about using that conversation as an opportunity to say, no, actually, you know what, it isn't like this way, I'm not very comfortable saying that, but maybe you can discuss this with someone else.
Yeah.
And it really depends on your circle and how you work with them as well.
Mm. So
Yeah.
we have got a reply from a little cute Shiba. I have a Shiba at home as well. uh, Perhaps it is because for a colleague, you tend to know less about someone. So when they find out about your sexuality, they reduce your whole personality to that. I do not disagree with that. Yes,
Hmm.
that is a well thought and said message. It is very uncomfortable,
Hmm.
So this is where I will bring the conversation to us feeling safe in a workplace. So safety comes in two different ways. Number one is definitely through our bodies. Sexually, we need to feel safe. Number
Hmm.
two would be our job. We have to keep safe because we want to have our
Job
job.
security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next question would be, I'm not sure if you know this, I don't know this as well, I'm very unaware. Are there laws to protect us from it?
So as far as I know, there are no laws that will protect you from being dismissed from work based on your sexuality.
Mm,
As far as I know, we have the Women's Charter, so that covers pregnancy, dismissal based on pregnancy or like family dependency. I believe those are the ones that you can actually um, sue for or find some kind of resolution for. But in terms of sexuality, I really don't think so.
mm,
There are a lot of resources out there, I believe. I think there's an ebook published called
mm.
Singapore LGBT Law or something.
Yes.
Go check that out if any of you all have any questions about this.
Mm.
Um, there are a few law firms that also deal with, I would say, discrimination suits, but I'm not too sure about that.
It's
Yeah.
okay. In my knowledge, I think there is some kind of gender law. So
Mm.
it's nothing about LGBT,
Yeah,
but
correct. Again, with
it
Women's
will be
Charter, yeah.
required because you're a woman in the company and that reason for it.
Mm.
So I think that's a very subtle way of putting it to Singaporeans that if a person is gay, honestly, nobody will
Mm.
write this, right? Unless they want to subtly, I wouldn't say protect,
Yep.
but yeah, protect talents,
Mm.
protect talents. Um, yeah. So okay. So my next question. I'm just gonna ask so many questions. I hope we can be done by 9. Um, since we're at the whole thing of colleagues,
Mm.
colleagues talk behind my back because of my sexuality and past sexual comments. That was the story that I shared with you, which is relatable.
Mm.
Any of sort that you have experience with?
Um, so I also shared this with you. I think in my direct experience, we hired a trans man, um, and it was one of the toughest things that I had to do as a business leader, I would say.
Mm,
Um, people talking behind your back is gonna be it's gonna be there no matter what, whether you're straight or
mm,
whatever. People are gonna talk.
mm,
I think the first thing to decide for yourself is how do you want to deal with it
mm,
internally. Like, do you want to recognize these chatter? Do you want to respond to it? You know, what are you comfortable with?
Yep.
Because I think no matter where you go, there will be chatter about you, right? So in my particular case, I think, of course, with hiring a trans man, he was, they were pretty out about it, you know, was very upfront about it with everybody.
Mm.
So the team that I had was, most of them were straight lah. So
Mm.
they couldn't understand, you know, what's this they them thing? Why can't I just call you like he? Um, or like, why must I work with this person?
Yeah.
I think there were a couple of issues that came out from there, and people do talk, no matter, again, no matter whether you're straight or not.
Mm.
So I guess in my case, the way we dealt with that, or rather, in my personal capacity, is to just sit people down and tell them, you know, they don't identify as that. You know, it's like me calling you it. You
Yeah.
know, just trying to give them a parallel that they can
Yeah.
comprehend, to understand why it's not okay to call somebody what they are not, or what they don't identify with. You
Mm.
know, it's very rude, and it's not acceptable. And of course, even I myself, like, I really don't have any friends who identify as they them, so it was quite hard for me to change the pronouns, as to call them right pronoun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So that
I
was
think
a super hard. Yeah.
I think I go through the same thing as well. The
Yeah.
it thing came out when, you know, at our age, the whole they them thing didn't exist. So now that it's new, right? It's something that's very very new to us. So back
Yeah.
then, when, okay, no, we're not that old lah, but back when we were aware, it was
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right? We called them it,
Yeah.
and that was totally fine. But
Yeah.
before the it came about, we refer to animals as it,
Yeah. Exactly.
right? So for me, I felt uncomfortable saying it because I have been taught that it equals to animals, right?
Hmm.
That's their pronoun, and I don't know whether the word it was out as an educational pronoun, or it was because it was a sarcastic remark,
Right. I
right?
understand. So
You,
so that's
you didn't think
exactly
about
what
it,
I
right?
got from no, so that's exactly what I got from some people who just couldn't wrap their minds around it. Like, why must I call them, you know, it lah. If you don't believe, if you're not a he or she, then you're it lah. You know, it's like so simplistic and so to a point where you're like, okay, I get what you mean,
Mm.
but and then you have to repeat your whole story again and explain to them why it's not cool, right? So
Yes,
I think,
exactly.
like, it really takes a lot of patience as a business leader
Mm.
to educate people on that,
Yes.
and even I am still being educated as we speak, you know. um, you, as a business leader, I think you just need to do your research, you know, talk to the person who is involved, and
Mm.
in and make sure you approach it correctly. I think also sometimes a lot of business leaders have good intentions, you know, they want to try to patch things up, or try
Mm.
to understand, but they ask questions in the most offensive manners.
Yeah.
um, yeah, so it is a steep learning curve, I believe, for
Yeah.
most people.
Yeah. This
And I
was
just
a
hope that we see more of that. Yeah.
this was a conversation I had with a friend of mine. Actually, he was the founder of the Heart Weavers,
Hmm.
where we were having a chat about how some people do not mean to be offensive when they want to find out, but they just don't know how to
Yeah.
phrase the words properly. And that's why I want to say that this platform is catered not just for queer women, but also for allies, for them to educate. We are all going to learn it through education.
Yeah.
I don't know what non-binary means. I'm telling you all, I do not know. I may be queer, but even though we're queer, we wouldn't know. So
Yeah.
tomorrow, I actually invited a guest who is non-binary.
Yes, I saw. Yeah.
Yes. So they are going to join us tomorrow to talk a little bit more about that. So if you're curious about non-binary, they, them, tomorrow will be the session, because I'm going to be asking the questions that I never thought I would ask. But this is for my own education, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to move on to my next question.
Okay.
Is sexism Women are given light jobs and not seen as leaders. Women are not fairly paid. How are we going to deal with that? How are we going to make a change?
It feels like you're making me solve the world's problems, but no, I get it. I think it's a really hard question to answer because we can only do so much, right?
How do you tackle it in your company?
So in my company, we definitely go by merits. I think I can confidently say that. We look at your job experiences, what you've done, and how you perform on the job. And then we decide pay and all the other stuff that comes along with it. Of course, as a business leader, it's important to set your own ground rules and what you want your company to be like. So fortunately, I was just in a position that I could help to decide what the criteria were. I could help to do the interviews. You could ask the right questions that would provide that fair platform, right? So I think this the thing about sexism is that it's like a 1,000-year issue, maybe with the exception of Cleopatra and Joan of Arc or something.
Exactly.
Right?
Like what
Yeah.
Jolene and Charlie is saying. Honestly, sexism isn't born because of genders. It's not men that created sexism.
It's a culture that we have lived in.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it
and
doesn't
just accepted all
matter
lives.
if you're male or you're female. Everybody is just looking for something to blame. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
And it's like, no, you're not getting promoted because you're women. But let's just move on.
Nobody will ever say that. The thing is that nobody will ever say that.
Yeah,
you will only come to your own deduction based on who they hired or who they promoted, and then evaluate your own achievements with them. So I think sometimes we just need to make sure that we know ourselves and we know what our work has been like. And I think for me, like, documentation of your own work and your own achievements is super important. It's not that you want to toot your own horn, it's more like, this is what I've done, and these are the things that, which I also think that a lot of people don't do, is to evaluate their own work and their own performance year by year or month after month. And then you don't have a track of how well you're doing compared to someone else that you can use and say, hey, why are you not promoting me? I, increased sales by 11% this year, this and that. Why am I not being considered? Because in that case, if you talk about sexism, which is definitely covered under the Women's Charter in Singapore, you need this kind of concrete evidence to say, that's what I did. Why am I not being considered? Things like that. I think documentation is something that I would hope that everyone out there is doing for themselves. So in the creative industry, of course, we have like our portfolio, right? You have a video reel of all the videos that you've done this year. Same thing, whether you are in admin, whether you're in sales, whether you are in, I don't know, what else, logistics, okay? There are always quantitative stuff that you can track and measure and to say, and to put in your resume. So I think based on sexism and how to counter it, I think that knowing yourself is probably the number one thing that you should be doing first. And then if there are any issues, if you're working in a larger company, of course, there's a HR department that you can approach. If you're working in a smaller company, I think you will most likely be dealing directly with your directors or the business owners. So same thing, the same conversation will occur. You have to show them proof that, hey, I've been doing this. Correct. Then the last question is, of course, to ask yourself, why are you in the company if this has happened to you so many times, right?
I for myself, I'm a full-time job. I'm a head of productions. I do media as well. And my whole company knows that I am queer and I'm married. My boss even came down for my wedding, all the way down to Sydney. So I am very blessed that way, that I can be open about my sexuality and be myself around them. But I'm just gonna push it back one more step behind. What if the person that is hiring us is a homophobic? I'm not trying to say anything. Okay, usually, Robin, don't take offense. But I, short hair, this weird bob cutting, side, tattoos all over. People see me and they're like, okay, she's lesbian. And then they see someone like you who's more masculine, short hair, okay, she's gay. You know, that's how they make up their minds. And
Yeah,
for
yeah,
our queer men as well, they've got nail polish, they dress up much better,
yeah.
and therefore they are queer. And even though companies have got their new division, which is called diversity and inclusion, um, they are not the people who are going to come down into the hiring process. And usually, if you're
Yeah.
going to go for MNC, so even a small company, you go through rounds of interview. And what if the person is homophobic?
So I think in my personal experience, I can't really answer that because all the companies I've worked for are all smaller companies. So I deal directly with the directors or like, yeah, mostly with directors actually.
Mm.
Um, what if they're homophobic? Call police ah. I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that because I feel like if the person is homophobic,
Mm.
then do you actually want to be there? You
Yep,
know, does
exactly.
this job mean so much?
Exactly.
But if it
Exactly.
does, yeah. But the thing is that if it does, right, then I mean, right now, especially in the digital age, there's more than one way to reach out to a company, or
Yes.
there's more than one way to get in. So try other means. If you really
Mm.
want to join that company and you think you can make a difference,
Yep.
I always encourage people to go out there and look for the information. There's LinkedIn, there's like Facebook, there's everything. So
You
don't just stop because like the HR person says no, you know?
That's correct. That's correct. So
Yeah.
probably what I did recently was have a professional LinkedIn account. And I changed my whole about me bio. And in my bio, I actually added that I'm the founder of LesBeHeard, and I'm creating a platform for queer people to have a safe space, to create a community, and that's just me. Honestly, it was a leap of faith. There's few reasons why. Number one is I want to practice what I advocate for, right? Number one. Number two is also a case study to see if anyone is actually going to see me differently. I'll never know if it's because they see my profile and they do not reach out to me and network with me. Honestly, I do not care. I'm at that stage of life that I do not care. But another question that came in is how can I advocate for this? Advocate is actually equality and workplace inclusion without looking like an activist.
That's a great question. I think I myself am very confused by activists sometimes. To be completely honest, like I think that things shouldn't be so extreme, but we do need extreme people in our lives to know where the balance is for ourselves, right?
Mm,
Um, how do you not appear like an activist? I think in life everybody is an activist for something. You
yes.
know, you are always championing something, whether it's like a game that you like or like a beer that you love, you know,
Mm,
there's always something, right? And just don't be pushy, lor. You know, it's
mm,
in the same way I wouldn't push you to drink the beer I'm having now. I
yep.
shouldn't force my opinions on you as well. What you can do, I mean, in my personal capacity, I just try to share whatever I can share. And sometimes if I find humor a good tool to use, you know, sometimes like if you're in a situation where humor can be used, then make it a bit more lighthearted, you know, a little more easy to listen to and to
Yeah.
accept. And storytelling definitely helps. I mean, you're in production, so you know all about storytelling.
Yeah.
Um, it helps to convey a message when you channel something through a story or an experience that you had. Um, you know, if you see somebody at work being bullied, let's say a gay guy was being bullied for being very feminine,
Mm,
and you don't like it, whether you're straight or not, right?
yeah.
Just maybe draw from your own experience of when you were last bullied or when you felt
That's
uncomfortable in the
correct.
situation. Yeah, and approach the person who is the aggressor and
Mm,
the instigator and just share with them your story. So whether or not they change their behavior or whether or not they do anything is up to them. But you know, do your part. I think that's the most important thing. And if, of course, if things are like escalated and really hard to deal with, stop it immediately. I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't do. You know, as Singaporeans, how many videos have you all watched of people like needing help in a fight and nobody goes up to them? You
Yep.
know, so I find that perhaps this is part of what the society that we live in
Mm.
at this moment, but we are also at the age and we are the generation of change, right? So it has to start with us, and no matter how you intervene, at least intervene, right? Do your part, do whatever you're comfortable with. You don't have to I don't know, march around with a giant like flag,
Yeah.
rainbow flag. You know, you get what I
Yeah.
mean? You don't have to do that. Yeah.
How I would add on to that is, if you are passionate about something, if you stand for something, you stand with your head up, high. It doesn't matter whether you look like activists or not. Like what Robin mentioned, we are all activists in our same way, and we have gotten to that generation and societal generation where our voice is getting heard. You know,
Yeah, we're doing this right now. Yeah.
So while I talk, Robin, I encourage you to take a sip of your beer.
Oh, I've drank like 10 sips already. I mean, into my second can.
Right. So now I'm gonna move on to the next question. You are a founder of your own company. I'm sure you have your own group of people that you hired to be in. I want to talk a little bit about racism and sexism as well. You know, as Singaporeans, we all have this thing because of our older generations. They always perceive Chinese as being a certain way, Indian of being a certain way, Malays of being a certain way. And I have experienced that myself. There's once where when I was way younger, I actually applied for a job. They said that only Chinese speakers. So I applied for it. I studied Chinese. I speak Chinese. And I went there and they said that, but you're not Chinese. I said, I'm half Chinese.
That's so weird.
And then they're like, yeah, but you don't look Chinese. We want a Chinese person. Then I'm like, that's not what you're
Why? Are you gonna be like the poster child of this company? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand.
So when you were going through your hiring process, what were you looking for, and how are you actually advocating for the same diversity and inclusion?
So I think from a small company's perspective, I think maybe let's talk about F&B, right? I think F&B is especially for frontliners, you don't need to have experience, you just need to have the right attitude. So to be fair, what we do is we do like paid shifts. Like, just come in for a night, you know, work with us and see how it goes. And then we'll evaluate from there. So it's very merit based, I would say, like very work based. If you can perform, you can do certain duties, great, let's take you on. Right? I think many other roles are a bit different because in my experience, it's more like F&B, and even if you talk about like creative work, it's pretty much based on portfolio. So that's where a lot of the merit is quite obvious at first glance, I would say. Why don't you share like what hiring processes you have been through? Because I think for me, it's pretty straightforward. If you can do the job, we'll hire you. So all these other things like, you know, whether you are Chinese, Malay, Indian, it doesn't really apply for my industry, thankfully, or rather the companies that I've had. But I also understand that other companies in like F&B lah, I would say, the most common issue is what you just brought up. You know, we want a Chinese speaker or Chinese only. And it's really annoying. Because like exactly like what you said, if you studied Chinese and you speak Chinese, but let's say your race is Indian, does that disqualify you? No what? If you can get the job done, you can speak the Chinese that you need or communicate to your guests the way you need to communicate, then why aren't you being hired?
Correct. Exactly the point. It is sad, but like I always share with everybody else, our generation and the next generation of ours, we are building up with a lot of inclusion, a lot of equality. So if anyone's gonna ask me that if Singapore is gonna be, if they're gonna accept same-sex marriages, I say yes, probably after both of us die. Right?
Like I completely agree. I was thinking about that as well. Like, exactly what you said, all these programs and all these information is out there now. It's not like it was before.
Yes.
Probably takes like 30 years for the kids of our generation to now grow up and make the change. But in the
Yes.
meantime, we gotta do the work.
Definitely, and we are really making a change. And the strawberry
Yeah,
generations are being more vocal about it. They are also making a change. For example,
yeah.
I can give you a very strong example. US soccer player, women's team. What's her name? Megan, is that her name? Megan? If I'm not wrong, but
I can't remember.
she is advocating for same wage, because the ladies get paid way lesser than the men
Yeah,
soccer players. And this is where I want it to go, right? And she's
mm,
also queer,
yeah,
um, which is more inspirational for us, right? And most of us, we take a lot of influence from the Western culture.
mm.
And like I mentioned, if India can do it, what are we doing with our lives? Right? Okay, so
That's what I like to say also.
right. And this has always been like that conversation that we have been going through. Um, Another question that came in specifically for you, Robin, is tell us about the time where you advocated for diversity and inclusion in the workplace.
Hmm. Um, Maybe all the time. Because I think I do it in a more subtle way. Like I don't really confront people about these issues, but I talk to them one on one to discuss these issues. And I think like what I shared just now, our experience with hiring a trans man in the workplace, that was one of the biggest lessons that, taught me that diversity and inclusion is so important and
Mm,
educating people is so important.
mm,
Um, I think it was only then that I really made extra effort to go and figure out what I was doing wrong, or what
yeah.
I was doing right. Um, in our case, I guess when we were running the bar, one of the things that I advocated for was LGBT friendly events,
Mm,
or just so that LGBT people can feel comfortable in a certain space. So, for example, because we sold beers, uh, we did craft beer tastings for a specific group. I believe that was out in Singapore. Yeah, so we worked with them, opened up to people who are more comfortable within their own community or who want to meet people in the community, and then bring them
mm,
down, and bring a beer expert that was really comfortable with talking about or rather had experience with the community and his own
yeah.
experiences. So it was much easier, and I think like people often forget that um, people just want to feel comfortable, you
Yeah.
know.
True.
Yeah, and to provide a platform like that, I think I used my space as much as I could to do these kind of inclusive activities. We ran like a screening for Pink Dot at the bar, their Facebook like live videos, and we invited people in the area because we were located in Robertson Quay, so there were a lot of foreigners who couldn't go or
Mm,
like don't really know of it. So we used that platform to say, hey, come down. So it's on Saturday. We'll
mm.
all watch the live video together, grab a few beers together. And I think like everyone can do it, no matter what your tools are. And in my particular case, it was just craft beers and it was food and craft beers. So I used my F&B um, business to do that. So if you're selling socks or like bottles, there's always a way to include people.
Yes,
You just have
definitely.
to, yeah, you just have to put in the work and maybe find a partner that can help you to create that platform, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, so another question that came up was two things. I'll point these two questions together. Number one, how do I come out to my colleagues? Um, do you have a story to tell?
I think for me it's pretty obvious. You kind of can make an assumption about like based on my appearance, right? So, um, for me, I think I actually dealt a lot more with people asking me, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And actually, yeah, sorry, the truck outside is really loud.
Okay.
But Okay, great. Yeah, so I think what for me, how I did it was I just slipped it into a conversation lah. Oh yeah, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going out with my girlfriend. You know, something like that. And they say, oh, okay, okay. And then you let them let the information simmer for a bit. And they're like,
Yeah.
what does that mean? And I think there was a period of time where I worked with a lot of I would say middle-aged people,
Mm.
and I think that was a bit tougher. I don't know if you really need to come out to your colleagues.
Mm.
If they're not that close to you, maybe consider whether or not they deserve to know the information
Yeah.
about you. I think sometimes people feel pressured to be out completely, and I don't think that that's necessary. Like be out and comfortable to the people that actually matter.
Yeah.
The rest of them can just
Yeah, exactly.
right,
Like what you mentioned, that if you want to come out, you want to be yourself, go for it. But we cannot expect everyone to be okay with it.
exactly.
They all have their own perspective, and we have to go in with the open mind.
Yeah.
That you are being yourself, but we cannot expect people to be okay with it. And if they are not,
Mm.
who cares? They do not.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you care if they are paying your salary. Uh,
Yeah, or if you're
you
a
don't.
HR guy, then
Yeah, exactly. And so it's thing that many people, I have so many friends who are like really in high post, head of this, director of this, and they are not out. I also have a lot of friends who are from MediaCorp, who are artists, and they are also queer, but they do not come out because it's gonna tarnish. They feel it's gonna tarnish their reputation, their image, and I feel very sorry. I have one of my friends who's a MediaCorp artist, and she's actually married. Yeah, it's very very
why
sad.
do we not know this? Why is it like taboo news, right? Like,
Yeah,
see, the thing is, we don't have in Singapore, we don't have a lot of role models to look up to
yeah,
professionally or in our life. So it's actually quite hard, and that's why I always like tell people to tell their story, right? There's
mm,
nothing wrong with telling
yeah,
people your story, and of course, there are some consequences that come with exposing your private life or your personal life. Um, but you're making a change. And I think if one day somebody out there who's high profile enough can see that it makes a real difference, then and they come out and they share that, I think yeah, it might like stir the media for a while, but then a lot more people realize that hey, this exists,
yeah.
you know,
And it's
and
not just
and
that; it's
and there's
about the
somebody out there that has been brave enough to do that, right?
yes. It's the influence, it's the impact that they can make to someone's life. And I think that is something that I'm also doing. I have a lot of people who are here on this platform who are closeted.
Mm.
And every time, usually after live sessions, they drop me a text. They say, "Thank you so much for doing this." And I had three people in particular who say that, you know what, I feel like it's my time to come out. So what does all
That's
of this
great.
make
That's
me
great.
feel? It's like I'm doing something right for the community. I'm giving them a bit more faith. I'm giving them a bit more strength to be who they actually are. And then
Yeah,
another
and we
question.
will, we might start with 12 viewers today, like right
Yeah.
now, but this same information is going to be out there for anybody who clicks on it. And that's what I love about like this age, right? The information is just there. You just need to find it. You just need to,
Yes.
and we as, perhaps more as I don't know, risk takers or leaders, uh, we do this, and that's why we are spending an hour tonight like talking about this to share what we know and to share our experiences so that somebody out there who is probably like 18 or 22 or still confused can take the information and then realize and make their own like realizations
Yes.
right.
Robin, I would like to correct you there. We are not risk takers, we are change makers.
Same
Yes. Okay. So I think one of the I kind of covered most of the questions. Another question would be, and I think this is something that is very, very relevant. Most employers will happily and tell you that they support diversity and inclusion, but they don't act the part.
Comment. I agree. I really agree. I think that even with friends, you know, who are straight or don't are not in the community, let's just say that. Like to say that, you know, I totally support you. I know what you're going through. Let me be that friend who's gonna help you make the change. And when you actually ask them to change it, you know, to not say this or to correct a certain statement, they're like, why cannot say it?
Yeah.
You know? So there are people out there like that. And I think perhaps the person is might be asking that question because he or she or they feel stuck in the current situation, right?
Mm.
Um, I feel a bit conflicted saying this, but I think the question is, why are you still there? Or do they really matter?
Mm.
I think that a lot of people still need to be where they are in their workplace, you know,
Yeah.
to make ends meet. And that's why it's kind of tough for them um, when these things are not fulfilled. But then you also need to consider like what you are doing for what you believe in.
Yeah.
If you think that this is important, then what are the small changes you can make? It doesn't have to be like walking around with a giant rainbow flag. It can be as simple as having a conversation one on one after work, having drinks or during lunch, and
Mm.
just having that conversation. And that is your own way of making change,
Mm.
right? This whole conversation is all about making change and what we should be doing for the future and why it's not happening yet. Um, so if you're in an MNC and they say that they have these policies in place, then you know, just check in the HR person in a very casual chat, like, hey, so you know the D&I policies, right?
Yeah.
Uh, can I know like what's coming up in the next month? You know, something a bit more casual that
Yeah.
doesn't make people feel like you're attacking them, or
Correct.
because a lot of people take this very personally when you are
Mm.
questioning them or when you're asking them, why are you not doing?
Mm.
So just need to find your own way to communicate that across, whether it's asking the right questions, whether it's talking to the right people, or again making your own change in the smallest of ways. Leave a note for somebody that you know is openly out but faced like a difficult situation recently. You can do
Correct.
all sorts of things. Yeah.
Correct. I would just like to add a little bit more on that. I'm actually conducting a workshop on the 9th of
Yeah, I
March.
saw.
It's called a consent and boundary workshop.
Hmm.
And why I'm taking that in is actually adding on to what you said earlier about why you're still there. Sometimes to reject and to feel rejected, we have to celebrate. And that's one of the key takeaway from that workshop itself. And there's this one key word that we always use. And this is called, and what we usually say is thank you for taking care of yourself. If someone's going to
Yeah.
respect you, if they say no, the word is thank you for taking care of yourself. If you feel rejected at work, if you don't feel like you belong there, you're being respected there, and if you leave, this is what I'm going to say to you. Thank you for taking care of yourself. And that's so important because even in a relationship, in friendship, in your own life, and also in workplace, because workplace is almost like a relationship. You're there almost every day.
Yeah, I
Like
think I see
I
my work more than I see my partner.
yes, exactly. That's
Right.
why you spend more time at work, and it's gonna affect your mental health. So if you're gonna leave, it's not weakness.
Mm.
It's actually you taking care of yourself, and it's so very important.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you for
agree.
sharing, Robin. Yeah, I have one more question that I have. Actually, a few more lah. But let me just bring this question: how far has Singapore progressed in terms of diversity and inclusion in workplaces? And what are some ways to better promote it?
Uh, that Singapore has come a long way. Um, there are a lot more channels that are now more visible. You see a lot more open support, you know, open statements, and you see a lot more confrontation
Mm.
of injustice. So I think that Singapore has come a long way from when our parents or grandparents uh, used to be.
Mm.
I just think that there's still a lot more to go. There's still a long way to go, and we are just probably at the start of change actually. Um, I mean, you look at D&I policies, they're so new to many, many companies, and they're such a new concept that a lot of people still don't understand what D&I means, truly means, you know?
I do
What
not know
is
what that
inclusion?
means. Or is it the diversity and inclusion? Is that what DEI means?
Diversity and inclusion, or diversity and intersectionality, meaning
Ooh,
like certain programs or certain policies should include as many people as possible, you know, like childcare leave. Only mothers can take childcare leave, or can dads also take childcare leave? So simple things like that. I think it's only in the recent years that people started talking about it and started exploring it, because as a company there's always a lot of cost. There's always cost that comes with a decision, right? So a lot
correct.
of people are a bit more hesitant to change, especially if their business is already doing well as is. People are very afraid of change. Even I am afraid of change, to be honest. So can you hear me? Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think in the public front, we see a lot more businesses taking a stand, right? We see
Mm,
small, like the recent issue is small. Um, they publicly took a stand for it, and because of that, they received both backlash and a huge amount of support.
yes.
Um, and then we have, like I can't remember which year it was, maybe 2017, when international MNCs, like the funding for Pink Dot, got cut off. What happened? 120, I think 120 companies, like local companies, stepped in and funded that program.
Mm,
So there are things that are being done, and there are things that are changing,
mm.
but there's still a long way to go. Lor.
That's correct. I actually
Mm,
posted this question that I had to a friend of mine. He is a trainer, and he usually trains for change management, for companies, for managers, for bosses. Right?
mm,
I posted this question to him because he works a lot with companies, the Department of Diversity and Inclusion, as well as teaching, training
mm,
the C-suites, the managers, the bosses about this. So I posted this same question back to him, and then he replied me. He said that, well, we have progressed over the years, although not fast as the rest of the world. And he did say
mm,
that we need more open communication about the things we don't want to talk about. Example like racial, LGBTQ, age, that we need to talk about them more in town halls, in CEO dialogues, in employee communication sessions, etc. And put action where the mouth is. Hire them, promote them, and let them represent their organization as a spokesperson. But he also did mention that it takes time, and he feels that it should start with the civil service and the ministries. As we well know, it's all happening.
yes, go on.
um, so yeah, he did mention that he doesn't understand why we still have application forms asking us for our race, religion, what's the purpose. But I'm also gonna give a heads up that in a lot of application, except for example job applications, they now give you the authority to actually choose whether your pronouns, your
Mm,
gender. I'd rather not say
mm,
others,
yeah.
which is amazing.
Yeah, I think that's a great start. I think every big movement comes with tiny changes like this first. And when I see that on forums, when I fill out online, I feel very happy, because at least somebody out there has thought about it, has taken this into consideration and put it in play.
Yeah.
So I think your friend is right. It does have to start from the governmental level, unfortunately,
Mm,
um, in Singapore. I mean, we talk about 377A, there's a whole other discussion, but it does set a tone for the entire society and the generation that we live in. And I think if small things like, getting your pronouns right, choosing whether you can identify as non-binary or prefer not to say, um, is a good start. I would
yeah,
say that.
it definitely is.
So again, if anybody out there is in the MNC, they can't really do any change, do that. Change the form on your website to non-binary or prefer not to say. At least somebody can do something about it, right? So
Yes,
yeah, I
definitely.
think it's such a small changes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so Robin, thank you so much for your time. 1 hour is not enough. So
Yeah,
for
this
now,
is a very long discussion.
cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
It's my pleasure. For those of us out there, I feel that if you're gonna continue to keep supporting the right people, we are going to move on the right direction, in the right direction. I mean, so I wish you all the best, Robin, especially for
Thank
your
you. I wish you
company as
too.
well. Your company as well. You're creating more queer content. Please call me in. I'm all about education, educating. I'm all
For
about
sure.
pushing more things out. And if any of you guys want to know more about Robin and her company as well, just go on to her IG, follow her, get more details from her. So now that I know you as well, and me being in production, you know I'll be keeping in touch with you, Robin, because
Sounds great.
we gotta support each other.
I know, I know, I know.
We are gonna
I
stand.
completely agree with you. Yeah.
Amazing guests. So I'm also slotting into their time. Tomorrow we actually have got Elijah. So they're actually joining in to talk about non-binary. It's going to be a really, really good session. We also have got a workshop coming up. Registration closes tomorrow. So if you're interested, please go in. Please go into my into LesBeHeard's post, and in the link in the bio, we actually have a form that you can also register for it. So thank you all very much, and I will see y'all again tomorrow. Bye. Thank you so much, Robin.